Hi, welcome back to Shine Total Wellness. If you're new here, I'm Danielle and I'm a fertility and prenatal health coach. And at Shine, we talk all about functional fertility, hormone balance, prenatal health, and more. So today we're going to be talking about progesterone. And really, progesterone is a master hormone when it comes to healthy fertility and pregnancy. And without progesterone, ovulation is not happening, which means pregnancy is not possible. So when I say it's really important, it's really important. Even with levels of progesterone that are lower than ideal, pregnancy is seriously compromised. So a lot of women are wondering, how do I improve my progesterone levels naturally? How do I support healthy progesterone levels? And I see low progesterone, suboptimal progesterone really all the time, like very routinely. It's interesting because we think of, the important hormones being progesterone and estrogen. I think I've seen low estrogen. Honestly, I can count on one hand the number of times. And I've worked with well over 600 women at this point. But low progesterone, I mean, this is something that I see multiple times every single month, if not weekly. So the good news is there are so many natural ways to boost your progesterone levels. And that's because the root cause of low progesterone typically has to do with lifestyle factors, including nutrition, stress management, lack of sleep, underlying conditions, hormone imbalances, those are biggies. So a lot of people are asking their doctors for progesterone medication, supplement. That's great. I love that. I have no problem with that. At the same time, or maybe if your doctor's saying, no, let's wait, or they're refusing to run labs for whatever reason, let's work on boosting those levels naturally, because the medication is like a Band-Aid, right? Once you stop taking the medication, you're going to go back to that underlying imbalance. But the natural lifestyle factors are getting to the root cause of the low progesterone. So enough said, let's jump into my top 10 tips for naturally improving your progesterone levels. The first tip is to increase your vitamin C intake. And that's because vitamin C naturally stimulates progesterone production before ovulation. So we need to have healthy progesterone levels in order to have successful ovulation. And studies actually show that women who get enough vitamin C, either through their diet or through supplements, have significantly higher progesterone levels than women who are deficient in vitamin C. Vitamin C is a really easy one to get, especially if you're eating like a whole foods based diet. We can get vitamin C in foods like berries, obviously citrus fruit, dark leafy greens, Brussels sprouts, bell peppers, broccoli, kiwi, cauliflower. So these are things that we should be eating ideally on a daily basis. Pro tip, start your day by including a handful, about a half cup or so of berries with your breakfast. That's going to give you that nice vitamin C boost, plus so many antioxidants that are really important for fertility and healthy pregnancy and fetal development. Try to have 2 cups of dark leafy greens and 1 cup of crucifers, like well-cooked broccoli, cauliflower, or Brussels sprouts every single day. And then throw the other ones in as kind of supplementary. If you're not getting enough and you need to supplement with vitamin C, go for it. It's that important for healthy progesterone production. And of course, it's important for so many other things in your body. Okay, my second tip is getting enough dietary magnesium. And magnesium is a really common micronutrient deficiency, especially among American women. It's not great for your hormones in general. It's also really not great for your progesterone levels. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough on a daily basis. So foods that are rich in magnesium, my personal favorite is super dark chocolate. So go for like 75% dark or darker. That is a health food, in my opinion. There is very little sugar in super dark chocolate. There is a decent amount of healthy fats, but there's also lots of magnesium, lots of antioxidants. You can also add pumpkin seeds, almonds, quinoa, again, those dark leafy greens coming into play. Fish have decent levels of magnesium too. So foods that we should be eating pretty routinely. Even with all of those foods, a lot of people are not getting enough magnesium. So consider supplementation. And there are 2 forms of magnesium that I really recommend on a regular basis. The first form is magnesium glycinate. I feel like I'm recommending this, like even just to random people that I'm like meeting out and about, not only clients, every single day. Because the glycinate form of magnesium is a parasympathetic activator. What that means is it helps your body get into that nice rest and digest nervous system. That's where we're supposed to be hanging out most of the time. That's the opposite of the sympathetic fight or flight mode. So I like to take magnesium glycinate before bed. Now, if you struggle with constipation or irregular bowel movements, go with the magnesium citrate form. And that one taken before bed can help promote regular morning bowel movements. Talk to your doctor, or if you're working with me, going to help you find the sweet spot for how much to take. Usually it's somewhere around 200 to 400 milligrams of magnesium that you're supplementing with, and then getting those nice magnesium-rich foods in your diet daily. Another micronutrient that's really important for progesterone production is vitamin B6. And vitamin B6 is critical for the development of the corpus luteum. And that develops after your egg is released, that follicle bursts. The corpus luteum is what produces the progesterone, right? So without that, we're not going to have that sufficient progesterone production. So we want to make sure we're getting plenty of B6 foods. Some foods that are rich in B6 are going to be chicken, salmon, beef, eggs, those nice animal foods. Liver is another one. And then we can also supplement with dark leafy greens. Those are regular, right? And all these recommendations, get those 2 cups per day. Bananas and avocado are 2 other plant-based sources of vitamin B6. My 4th tip for healthy progesterone production is changing the way that you think about dietary fat and cholesterol. And in America, we're still kind of in the middle of the shift away from villainizing fat. We're still coming from the fat-phobic 90s. And really, cholesterol in this country, it's still a dirty word. It's still something that most people think it has to be as low as possible, and I'm scared of consuming it. And that is really not helpful for our hormones. Our steroid hormones, including progesterone, really all of our adrenal and sex hormones, are made from cholesterol. In fact, cholesterol is so important that if you're not getting enough through your diet, your body is going to make its own. However, it's really, really helpful for most people to get quality dietary cholesterol. So fats and cholesterol are different. Not all fats contain cholesterol. It's only the animal fats that you're going to find cholesterol in. So especially if you're vegetarian and you're probably not consuming a lot of animal foods, or you're vegan and you're consuming 0 animal foods, if you're struggling with fertility and having a healthy pregnancy, or if you suspect or you know that your progesterone is low, take a look at your total cholesterol and your LDL. If those are low, you are probably going to want to take measures to improve them, because that is definitely going to hinder progesterone production. So I recommend starting by including 2 servings of healthy fats with every meal and a serving of healthy fats with every snack throughout the day. And just as like a general rule of thumb, a serving is going to be half an avocado, a handful of nuts or seeds, a tablespoon of nut or seed butter, or a tablespoon of cooking oil. So that can be like grass-fed ghee or butter, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, that kind of thing. In addition to that, make sure that you're getting quality animal foods in your diet. So if you're vegetarian, let's make sure you're having eggs. Let's make sure you're having whole milk dairy. That doesn't have to be cow's milk. That could be goat's milk or sheep's milk, but that's going to help give you the healthy cholesterol that you need. And we can also, of course, focus on grass-fed meats. Pastured chicken, dark meat is going to have a lot more fat, right, than white meat. We can get grass-fed and pastured liver. We can get wild-caught fatty fish. Those omega-3s are really great for progesterone production, and we're going to get natural cholesterol in the fish. So this is not something to fear. This is something to actually make sure that you're getting enough of on a regular basis to support healthy hormone production and especially healthy progesterone levels. And another important micronutrient for progesterone production is zinc. Zinc is something that a lot of people are also deficient in, and you might not ever know it. It's not regularly run in a micronutrient panel. But zinc helps increase follicle stimulating hormone, which facilitates ovulation. So if you're deficient in zinc, your body might have a little bit of a problem with ovulation. Now, to get more zinc, I recommend trying to include red meat 2 to 3 times per week in your diet, and that's going to help with so many of the other things we're talking about too. Try adding 2 tablespoons of pumpkin seeds daily. You can throw that into like a yogurt bowl or on top of a salad. Maybe you're adding it into your snack of trail mix. That's an easy one to get more zinc. And eating more seafood. So, especially oysters, sardines, crab, and salmon. My sixth tip is to create balance in your exercise routine. And honestly, this is where I see so many women kind of going wrong when it comes to healthy hormone production and fertility, because you've been kind of taught that harder is better, more is better, longer is better when it comes to exercise. However, for fertility purposes, this really isn't true. So we want to make sure that we're not overdoing the kind of cardio specifically that creates more cortisol production. And that's going to be HIIT cardio, high intensity interval training, your boot camp classes, your spin classes, the ones where you're going all out for the majority of the class. That's usually not great for cortisol production. It's driving it up, as well as long duration cardio. So my endurance athletes, I'm looking at you, and I get it. I used to be one. Not great for really anything in my life, but especially not my hormones. Now, the reason that we don't want all of that cortisol when it comes to progesterone is because cortisol and progesterone share the same parent hormone. They're both made from pregnenolone. So anytime there's an increased demand for cortisol, that more of that parent hormone is going to be diverted towards the cortisol pathway, away from the progesterone pathway. So progesterone production can suffer. Now, for a lot of people, this might not be a problem. However, in our modern lives, we are stressed in so many ways. We don't really even think of physical forms of stress on our bodies because we're so busy dealing with the mental and emotional stressors of day-to-day life. That physical stress can really just tip you over the edge where the cortisol is way up here, the progesterone production is going to tank. So I always recommend balance. I mean, really, when you're trying to get pregnant, when you're trying to balance your hormones, balance with your exercise is what it's all about. Aim to moderate your cardio. So maybe we're mixing in some restorative exercise as well, Pilates, yoga, outside walking, strength training, so that we're not just cardio focused. We're also dialing down the intensity when you're doing that cardio. Number 7, reduce your exposure to xenoestrogens. And I feel like we talk about this all the time on this channel. You probably already know xenoestrogens are a type of endocrine disrupting chemicals that can interact with and even mimic estrogen in your body. And so estrogen and progesterone play in a very delicate balance with each other. If estrogen is way up here, progesterone is never going to be high enough to keep it in check. So we want to make sure that we're balancing those levels, right? So xenoestrogens are everywhere. They're all around us. But for most of us, we're getting the highest exposure in plastics. So plastic water bottles, food storage containers, plastic wraps, nonstick cookware is a biggie as well. And then conventional beauty and skincare products and conventional cleaning products also typically contain many different xenoestrogens. So slowly start swapping those over for non-toxic products, and that's going to significantly reduce your xenoestrogen exposure. Tip number 8 is keep the caffeine intake in check. And I know this isn't a fun one. We all love our coffee, but going back to that cortisol progesterone link, we know that caffeine increases cortisol. So that also makes it another physical stressor on the body. So in addition to caffeine increasing cortisol, which can negatively impact progesterone, caffeine also pretty significantly impairs estrogen metabolism. So it can worsen that estrogen dominance or the imbalance of estrogen to progesterone, especially in women that already have other factors that can play into estrogen dominance. So really what I recommend here is you don't need to go zero caffeine. I mean, if you do, it's probably only going to help your life. Like nothing's stopping you from doing that. But try at least cutting your caffeine intake in half, maybe limiting to no more than 1 cup of full strength coffee a day. And by the way, a cup is 8 to 10 ounces. Okay. It's not like the 16-ounce ventis that you need to like be chugging all day long. No. Um, Additionally, maybe consider switching from coffee to green tea or matcha. So that's going to naturally drastically reduce the amount of caffeine because they have less caffeine than coffee. But the caffeine in tea is paired with L-theanine, and that's a natural amino acid that's found in caffeinated teas, green, white, and black teas, that's very soothing. So it helps kind of counterbalance the effects that the caffeine can have on cortisol production. Tip number 9 for naturally boosting progesterone is to manage the mental and emotional stressors in your life. Now, I didn't say reduce your stress. I didn't say get rid of your stress. If you can, sure, that would be amazing. But most of us who live in the modern world, I mean, we're going to have kind of an underlying amount of stress on a regular basis, right? So, this is where stress management becomes really important. If we are constantly stressed from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, and we're internalizing that stress, we're not releasing that stress, that's where we really start to run into problems. So, practice some form of stress management, relaxation, mindfulness that works for you. If your form of stress management is HIIT cardio, remember, probably not the right thing to do. Maybe we need some yoga, some meditation, a creative outlet, a hobby, some stretching at the end of the day. Honestly, even just taking a warm bath or a shower to wash the day's stressors away can be a nice grounding ritual before bed. Really, the purpose of this is to bring cortisol from maybe up here to a more manageable level so that you're not constantly overproducing cortisol and that doesn't have that negative impact on your progesterone levels. Number 10, stop intermittent fasting and going too long between meals. Now, the caveat here is this one is a little nuanced because women with insulin resistant PCOS can actually benefit from some form of time restricted eating that can be really therapeutic for bringing down insulin levels. So, a nice way to create balance is to aim for 12 hours of what I call just a reset, a little gut break between when you end eating at night and when you begin eating the next day. I don't really consider that a fast. The longer, like 16 plus hour fasts, really they're doing more harm than they are good for the majority of women, especially if you know that you have a hormone imbalance or you're trying to increase your progesterone levels. The reason for that is going long periods of time without food is a physical stressor on the body. So if we're driving cortisol up, we're usually driving progesterone down. So take that nice 12-hour reset. That's a great digestive break so that your body doesn't have to constantly be digesting food overnight. That will help drive insulin levels down, but it's not going to cause your blood sugar to crash. And then once you start eating in the morning, aim to eat every 3 to 4 hours. And this is because as women, our bodies like predictability. They like getting meals at regular times. They like knowing that there is always going to be energy coming in, especially for women in our reproductive years. So balancing hormones and improving progesterone levels, it's a specialty of mine. It's something that I do every single day. So if you're worried about your progesterone, if you suspect that progesterone might be an issue for you, you really should talk to an expert. You can set a 30-minute consult with me. It's completely free at the link below. So go ahead and schedule that. And of course, click the subscribe button so that you never miss these tips on how to improve your fertility and have a healthy pregnancy naturally. Thanks for watching.